My name is Mandy Simpson and I'm working on a series revolving around my dad Robin and his memories of my mother Valentine. The series to date could be described as empirical. I've delved into light projections, weavings, joiners and organza prints, and having been inspired by Carla Leiching's workshop during the symposium, I've added short pieces of text to some of my images. Robin, remembering Valentine, started initially exploring a trip which my dad, aged 23, made to Africa in 1962 by Land Rover from his farm in Cheshire for a 9-month expedition. He has a vast collection of slides, cinefilm and associated treasures, including letters and souvenirs from his trip, and it was whilst going through all this material that we found photographs of my mother. They met in 1961, but my mother ended their relationship, which prompted Dad to answer an advert in the local paper wanting a travelling companion to Rhodesia. On his return from Africa, they rekindled their relationship and married in 1964. Finding photos of Mum was an enormous distraction from the Africa project, and I found myself wanting to investigate further. I asked Dad what he thought about the evolving project and what it was really about, and he said, "Lost love." The more time I spend at the farm, the more I can see this is true. The farmhouse is exactly the same today as it was when she died in 1983 from breast cancer. The ornaments are in the same place, the curtains, carpets, kitchen cupboards, all the same. There's even a ball of wool which she spun and wove from her Jacob sheep, Gertie and Daisy. I have little recollection of my mum. I was 15 and my brother only 13 when she died. The memories I do have come in snapshots. Her long purple dress which I used to wear for fun, the sight of her at the school gate, my brother and I blackberry picking with her. My initial thoughts for displaying the Africa images had been to project them onto the farm buildings, the same farm buildings that had witnessed the Land Rover leaving for the trip. I contacted Karen Crosby, who uses large-scale projections as her medium. She told me to expect something to go wrong, as it always does, said it was normal and wished me luck. Dad and I set up the projector and used a photograph of the farmhouse as a trial run. We were amazed at the clarity of the image. This led to taking stills of the Africa farewell party and positioning them across the blue doors in the farmyard to see how they transferred. The results were very powerful. It was like being amongst a sea of ghosts with my dad pointing out various family members on the blue doors. I felt that this method would work particularly well with the images of my mum, creating a surrealist layer of liminality. She's no longer with us in person, but her soul is there in the light, forcing us to see her. It's as if she's watching us. Alan Sekula said that with an archive, the possibility of meaning is liberated from the actual contingencies of use. New owners are invited, new interpretations promised. Working with an archive of material poses challenges as to how to tackle and present the subject matter in order to convey the intended synergy. Obviously, the content's highly emotive and personal to me and my dad, but I was searching for a way to communicate the ever-presence and the passing of time. I also sought to make the images my own and looked to collage photographers such as Greg Sands. He weaves images together, usually 3 at a time, to create a multifaceted sense of the person, sometimes including their clothing into the weaving too, as he feels it impregnates the weaving into the body of the actual person. I tried this technique using a double image of my mother at 21 and then my father at 23, woven with a portrait of him now at 83. The final piece is my mum and dad, young and old, entangled. Projected onto the farm buildings, this is a 12-foot square image, and I've ensured to include as much of the building as possible to give a sense of scale. Emboldened by my results, my next experiment was to position the projector so that my mother's face would be lit at the exact spot where she would have looked out onto our garden from the kitchen window. She stood here to roll pastry out and cook steak on a griddle with the window wide open to let the smoke out. Her view was framed with the curtains which hang there today, and on the windowsill are her African violets, which my dad has tended since her death. Projecting outside in the dark had worked well, but would it be as successful inside the house? Among the slides in the archive were images of Mum and I in the kitchen. Whilst Dad cooked his supper, I shone the image above the Aga. He stared at it and said it felt as if she'd never left. Due to the unchanged nature of the house, it's possible to re-photograph the exact spots where the originals are taken. Todd Hyde recollects that when you grow up and move away, your old childhood bedroom becomes foreign again. It's locked in the past where you used to live. Like Heido, my antenna is picking up signals from the past. In Lounge 2022, the table and candlesticks are in the same spot as they were in 1969, and projections as me as a baby in the bathroom show the pink bathroom suite is still going strong today. Kaylin Devaney's series, The Day-to-Day Life of Albert Hastings, has a similar degree of nostalgia, and Albert is approximately the same age as my dad. The photographs are banal, so ordinary at times that if it weren't for Albert's own captions it would be hard to see why she'd taken the pictures. I emailed her and it turns out we're the same age too. We discussed the stage in our lives when we turned from adult child to friend and finally to caregiver. My dad's very fit, so I haven't reached this stage. In Dad's bedroom he has the most enormous bed with just one pillow, his slippers neatly parked in the corner. As I progress through my series, I'd like to include my mum into this scene. I tried an image of her projected onto the curtains in his bedroom, however the light's not right in my opinion, but I'll make another attempt. She's sitting on the front of their car looking out into the distance, giving a sense of isolation and departure. This dreamlike quality of a hazy image led me to David Hockney's swimming pool paintings. The submerged figure below the water echoed the shadowy, indistinct lines I wanted. However, whilst researching Hockney, I also came across his joiner photographs, which resemble the weavings I created to start with. The image of his mother is wonderful. Francis Hodgson states of the multiple images juxtaposed with each other that Hockney's mother has 3 or 4 noses, 3 or 4 mouths. You see her head from the left and from the right, yet none of that dodgy anatomy matters at all, as long as you see her slowly. That turns your glance into a caress and so allows you to reproduce some of the caress of Hockney's own way of looking at her, his eye travelling gently over the many surfaces of her face. This is such a wonderful description, and it works exactly as he says. The visual effect of these images remind me very much of Picasso's Cubist paintings, particularly his portrait of Dora Maar. I aim to try to create a joiner of my dad. This is very much a first attempt as he was digging in his garden. I've also considered doing a joiner of the layout of the farm buildings and house. The quality of my projections are quite ethereal. I came across 2 artists, Lynn Bowman Cravens and Marissa Keller, who display their work on printed organza hangings. The fine, transparent quality is a material vision of the light projections, but with movement. The fabric responds to the slightest breath of air. I used a hairdryer to create a breeze, and the diaphanous effect gives the organza new life. I showed this film clip to a fellow student who immediately thought that I'd submerged the fabric in water. This has come full circle back to David Hockney. In Camera Lucida, Roland Barthes explains how he was alone in the apartment where his mother had died, looking at images. One by one, under the lamp, gradually moving back in time with her, looking for the truth of the face I had loved. I'm not sure I have found my mother yet. It's a strange feeling looking at photographs, especially ones with me in them, because I am a child, and the memory isn't there. It isn't mine to remember, but I clearly see in his expression that she is there for my dad. His gaze is that of a spouse, whereas mine is that of a daughter.